Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale MCU figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at Kang, based off his appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Marvel figure review goes live on the channel. Before we get stuck in, I'd like to get some housekeeping out of the way first. By me picking up Kang, I am in no way supporting any of Jonathan Majors' BS. Number one, this figure was announced prior to any of that stuff coming out, so I'd already pre-ordered him. And number two, I'm able to separate the art from the artist. I'm reviewing Kang, not Jonathan Majors. I hope that makes sense, but I can already see what's going to happen in the comments section down below. Up front, we've got an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania logo, this 3D particle symbol that's done in high gloss, which contrasts against the satin finish for everything else, and multiple product shots, including one of MODOK just hiding behind this arm for the symbol. On the side of the box, we've got this honeycomb pattern, which is a little blurry. It almost reminds me of AI-generated art, and I hope that's not the case because I would prefer if Hot Toys made their own artwork for their figure boxes. We've got some little cutouts so you can see the box underneath, which I can already tell looks awesome, and the color scheme is predominantly green and purple, which matches Kang's outfit. And then around the back, the usual suspects, warnings, legal information, as well as Hot Toys store locations. How cool is this? It just makes the box feel that little bit more special for Kang. Going with translucent plastic means that they didn't really have to do an open window showcasing the figure inside, because technically the entire box is just one massive open window. It's very strange that they're only just now experimenting with stuff like this, because I love to see it. Honestly, if they used a translucent box for more figures, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that, once again, while I don't support any of Jonathan Majors' BS, his performance in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was one of the best bits. That movie didn't sit super well with me. It's not one of my favorite MCU or even Ant-Man outings. First in-hand impressions for Kang? So far so good. He feels nice and weighty, and I'm loving the metallic purple. What we're going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first. Anyone who's been watching the channel for a while at this point is probably sitting there right about now thinking, oh, here we go, he's about to rip into this display base. And you're 100% right. I loathe this base mold. I have no idea why they keep coming back to this. It's massive, and it's wildly impractical because we've got a point on each end, so you can't have other figures up alongside this base. And there's one at the back, so this cannot sit flush with the back of your cabinet. Then we get to the flight pole. Why is it all the way back here? This space is completely wasted. At least the artwork is good. I like the green. It'll play off the green on his outfit, and it's done in this textured, grippy finish. We've got an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania logo done in high gloss, so there's a bit of contrast. And for the nameplate, they kept it simple. They just printed Kang around the front. The flight pole is one of their longer ones, and they've added this little support piece on the bottom of the spring-loaded waist clamp. It is foam padded, but these are notorious for doing damage to rubbery material superhero suits over time, so please, don't use this. You know what would have been really cool? If they'd have included like a little acrylic post that this could have sat on to make it look like Kang was floating. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. We have to rely on the waist clamp, otherwise this thing is rendered entirely useless. So we get this quite thick and sturdy feeling translucent blue disc. We've got some pegs up on top, and there's some speckling of paint on the surface to make it look like there's energy flowing through it, I think is what they were going for. Speaking of energy, we do get two blast effects, both of which are cast in this translucent rubbery plastic. They're flexible enough that you don't have to worry about breakage, even for the thinner, spikier pieces. On the translucent parts, they've added this thin layer of silver metallic, and then for the rest of it, it's done in dark blue. If you light these correctly, I reckon they will look pretty cool. Unfortunately, they did something a bit strange. Instead of giving us one for the left side and one for the right side, they're the same mold for both. So trying to use these threaded inserts to slot his fingers into them, but having different hands from one side to the other, does make it more challenging. We will try these out on him a little bit later. We'll be going into way more detail on both of these sculpts when we install them on the body. For now, just know that we get an unhelmeted and a helmeted head sculpt. On these little neck cover / collar pieces as well, we've got this one for the unhelmeted look, and the metallic purple neck sock sleeve thing for if you want to go helmeted. And finally, a full array of hands, ranging from closed fists, and the detail's really good on all of these. We've got some ribbing detail, some leather grain texture, and the armor plates on the back painted in metallic purple. Ooh, the leather grain texture on the splayed out finger hands is much more prominent. I'm not sure if it's coming across on camera. You will 100% be able to see that in person. These have to be my favorite of the lot. Pre-installed on the body out of the box are these semi-relaxed fingers curled in with the thumb resting in front of them hands. I wish we'd get this exact gesture more often because it just looks very natural. What we're going to do now is get Kang himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. He's got some serious presence. There's something about Kang with his ethereal looking armor in such loud colors, the green and metallic purple, that only he could pull off. He is such a vibe. I wouldn't be surprised if when all of the releases from this line have dropped, that this guy ends up being the standout because he was probably for most people the best part of Quantumania. Unfortunately, he does have the real-life legal issues that the actor who played him has working against him. For some people, what happened IRL is going to be an immediate no in terms of adding this guy to their display. And I absolutely respect that. For me though, as I said earlier, I can separate the art from the artist, the performer from the performance. When I do that, I start to appreciate the figure a hell of a lot more because I see him as just Kang and not Jonathan Majors. The proportions are solid, which is saying something because his weird outfit is not the most flattering cut, but he pulls it off and looks great while doing it. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Kang's helmeted head sculpt. We will try out the unhelmeted one in a minute. But I can already tell you, this is how he's always going to look in my collection. The blue face and the purple helmet. It's just too iconic of a look not to use, and it ties the entire outfit together. They've also included this metallic purple neck cover piece that slides over the top of the skin tone neck and makes the blend from purple helmet to purple armor that little bit more seamless. There's still plenty of skin texture on the surface, but it's just painted in blue, and even a little 5 o'clock shadow. In terms of the likeness, there's a lot working against it because of the blue and the white eyes and the purple helmet. Even with all of that being said, I can still see Jonathan Majors from pretty much every angle. I currently have the LEDs turned on, but the button cell batteries are dying really quickly. That isn't a massive deal with this sculpt though, because they've cast all of the light up pieces, the eyes, the lines, and that rectangle on the top of the helmet in glossy white plastic, so it almost looks like that stuff is lit up anyway, even with the LEDs turned off. Oh yeah, I much prefer the other head sculpt. This one is serviceable. There's still some skin texture, the lines look good, the hair is well detailed, but something about it almost looks cartoony to me. Maybe it's the size of the eyes, or it's a byproduct of them going with moving eyes, and that's what ended up making this sculpt look worse than the prototype. Do weigh in down in the comments below. Do you like how this head sculpt turned out, or not? Now, the skin tone neck is exposed because I've removed that purple neck cover piece, and I've inserted the collar inside the outer collar for the armor plating. That skin tone neck is a little bit lighter in color as compared to the head sculpt, so the skin tone match isn't perfect. To get to the moving eyes, step 1 is to remove the head sculpt from the clear plastic neck connector. Then you can use either the included tool or your finger to move the eyes around. This still is my favorite modern Hot Toys innovation. The fact that for pretty much every new figure, we're getting moving eyes. That means depending on the built-in expression, like for Kang, the furrowed brow, we can work with it. And now with a head tilt and his eyes off to the side and up at an angle, he looks way more mean. I like this, but I'm still going to go back to the helmet. That's just pure comic book Kang. I'm glad that we got him later in the MCU, because in the first few phases of the Infinity Saga, they were a bit more grounded with how they translated the comic book looks to the on-screen costumes. By the time we got to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, any sense of realism was well and truly out the window at that point. So they were able to go all out with the comic book look for Kang, and it worked. This suit is absolutely a feast for the eyes. Around the back for this armor plate, this is sculpted plastic, and the cape is attached to it underneath. So when you adjust it up and down, the cape comes along for the ride as well. It's made of this lightweight sheer 2-ply fabric, but when you bunch it up and it drapes naturally along his back, you can't actually tell that it's subtly translucent. It's screen printed on the surface, it's cut so the middle portion is a little bit higher up than the rest of it, and it's wired along the edges, but not for the bottom or any of the plates. So it's more of a drape cape in my opinion, because if you do use the wires, the rest of it will follow the outer edge to an extent. But if they'd have gone with wires for the entire thing, this would have worked a hell of a lot better. Back around the front, the chest plate is just that same piece of armor that was around the back that the cape is attached to, but these little sections along the front connected to the belt, they're free floating and you can adjust them, so depending on the pose, this stuff, fingers crossed, shouldn't get in your way too much. The outfit is made of multiple layers of this almost rubbery feeling screen printed material. Think Iron Spider and the new red and blue suit Spidey. It's the only way they can get this much surface detail and sheen and depth onto a piece of fabric. They print it out as one big sheet, then they cut it up and assemble the outfit from it. The gauntlets are painted in the same shiny metallic purple as the belt and the rest of the armor, and they're separate pieces. So you can bring them down to try and obscure the end of the sleeve or the wrist peg, depending on how you have everything set up, but not enough for it to look like there is a glove tucked up underneath the gauntlet. Also, be careful of that point because there is a little bit of a mark just underneath it from where I've pulled it down over the hand. I've been pretty curious to try it out, so let's pop on one of the blast effects and the splayed out finger hand. You know what? That's actually pretty cool. I'm tempted to display him with the blast effects on because they're very seamless. They just sit over and under some of the fingers. There are some grooves cut into the effects so that everything locks in place quite securely. I was worried at first that they would do damage to the gauntlets or the hands, but they're made of a soft enough plastic that I don't really think that's going to be an issue. Oh, and you can flip them round if you have the closed fist hands on. They slide over the top of them and lock in place on the gauntlet. So now it looks like the wider end of the blast is facing towards whoever the heck Kang is blasting. Coming down to his legs, the skirt pieces are made of the same rubbery screen printed stuff as what they used on the upper torso. Unfortunately, they're not wired. It's a bit of a disappointment because they're really thin and they're curling around the edges. If they were wired, I could have flattened them out or used them to sell a dynamic pose. The pants are extremely tight on the bulky legs and they aren't padded. This is all the stock sculpted body underneath. The panels do protrude ever so slightly on the surface of the pants, and the knee pads are permanently attached. They're fused on there so you don't have to worry about them peeling off on you. The boots are a split cut design, so great for articulation, and there are some peg ports on the underside. We've got some for the heels and some in the middle in between the fully sculpted tread. The reason for those peg ports, you probably already guessed it, but yeah, it's the translucent disc effect piece. Going with a couple of different ports means that you can adjust his stance. If you want one foot in front of the other still secured on the base, you can do that. Or you can have the feet in line, and once they're plugged in, you can swivel them side to side as well. This is just like infinitely adjustable. For a quick side-by-side comparison, at the time of filming this video, the titular characters from Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, both Scott and Hope, haven't been released yet. So this is the most up-to-date version of Ant-Man that's currently available. It's the Ant-Man and the Wasp version. Scott is shorter than Kang, and while the metallics on both suits play off each other quite well, I see Kang as more of an Avengers villain rather than an Ant-Man one, so I'm not going to have him posed up next to either Scott or Hope in my display. But that doesn't mean you can't. If you do see him solely as an Ant-Man villain and you want to do something like this, Ant-Man and the Wasp's Wasp next to him, well, this is what that looks like. I don't think it works as well as the last comparison because Hope's suit is a lot darker than Scott's, and it lacks that super bright, shiny metallic finish. Oh, damn it, now that I'm seeing this, the Mark 85 next to Kang, it's just now dawning on me that there's a strong chance we're never going to get to see another version of Kang in this costume in the MCU, facing off against some of the original Avengers. I highly doubt that Tony's coming back anytime soon, at least not to fight Kang, but who knows, we'll just have to wait and see. Iron Man is a little bit taller than Kang. How about Cap? Well, he's ever so slightly taller. It might not look like it on camera, but in person, the height difference is more noticeable. I'm just chucking out random figures at this point. Iron Spider, as you can see, height difference looks about right to me. This, again, I don't think is a matchup that we're ever going to be able to actually see on screen. Going over articulation, starting off with Kang's head sculpt. If you've got him wearing the helmet and the neck cover, just be careful because that's a painted piece of purple plastic, and if there's too much friction when you're moving everything around, it may cause damage to the skin tone neck underneath it. We've got a ball joint at the base of the neck and a double ball peg up underneath the head itself. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His arms will go up to there, going forward and back on soft ratchets. They can also go almost completely flush down by his sides. There's a butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Even though there's multiple layers on the upper torso and some hard sculpted plastic bits, these are free floating, so crunching forward, that's honestly more range than I was expecting. Going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His skirt is flexible, so no worries. His legs will go forward, they will go out, swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee going past 90, and a split cut boot design with a double ball peg for the ankles. Good for forward and back rotation, as well as ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, it's 2024 Hot Toys, come on, button cell batteries? Let the frickin' things die. You could have absolutely done better than this. Have the base plug in via USB-C, and then magnetically and wirelessly transfer power through Kang all the way up to his head sculpt. Relying on those little batteries that die very quickly, I'm just not here for it. The second annoying thing, and it pains me to say this because I actually like the way this cape looks, but we just don't have enough wires to work with. We only have two for the entire thing. Nothing at the bottom and nothing in the plates. The third annoying thing is the terrible, the awful, the impractical diamond style display base. This is hands down their worst base mold, because you've got points on either side and one around the back, so you can't push this up against the back of the cabinet, and you can't have figures alongside it. Not to mention the flight pole is right at the very back, so unless you bend it in a weird way to have him then hovering over the middle, which means you are going to lose some height in doing that, it's just not something that I can ever see myself using in my collection. The first cool thing is they surprised me with this. I thought for sure it was going to be made out of that awful, cheap and nasty feeling clamshell stuff. But it isn't. This is a proper, thick, sturdy plastic. I dig the color, and there's even some paint on the surface. But the best part about it is you can choose how you attach Kang to it. He's got multiple different ports on the underside of his feet. So if you want to have him standing more towards the middle or a little bit further back, both doable. The second cool thing is, yes, the LEDs are impressive, the way they make the lines and the eyes and that little rectangle glow. But when the button cell batteries inevitably die on you, unlike an Iron Man figure where the suit looks completely dead with the LEDs turned off, because they cast those bits in translucent white glossy plastic, they still sort of look like they're lit up, so I have no problem whatsoever displaying him like this with the LEDs turned off. The third cool thing is the metallic purple armored neck cover that hides the skin tone neck when you've got him wearing the helmet. I've been waiting for them to figure out how to give us both a skin tone neck and a fully suited one for years at this point. Finally, they figured it out. A little piece of plastic that slips over the top so that we can get the best of both worlds. Wrapping up on Kang the Conqueror by Hot Toys based off his appearance in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Such a shame, honestly. I was starting to really get on board with Kang as the new big bad going forward in the MCU. And from what's being said about what's coming up next, that may no longer be the case, irregardless of a recast situation. They had a line in Loki Season 2 where they said they were sending the TVA to prune or get rid of the other variants of him. If that's their way of tying a neat bow around it and severing ties with Jonathan Majors, I wouldn't blame them. The figure, though, has a lot working against it. It's based off a movie that wasn't that well received, even though Kang was arguably the best part of it. He was defeated by Ant-Man, which is another thing that is working against him. And then the actor who played the role had some serious legal issues IRL. So yeah, not sure if people will be lining up out the door to grab him and put him on his huge ass base front and center in their displays. I have a spot for him, but that's me. I somehow find a spot for everything. At the end of this, I am glad I got him, and I'm more than happy to be adding to my MCU villains display. Because they're not that well represented. We don't have Ghost or the final version of Ultron, or any of the smaller side villains like Ulysses Claw and Crossbones. Maybe one day. But now, Kang is a good start. Now I got mine from Pop Collectibles at a discount. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.